Welcome to Kiss the Reviews. I'm Armando. That's Corey. And today we're doing 1981's Ghost Story. See?
Man, Kava, there's a ghost in my house, eh?
Before we get started, if you would like to follow me or Corey on Twitter, you could follow me at Junior D's. You could follow Corey at Corey_idol. And let's jump into this one. Let's jump into the cast of Ghost Story. This was a request from our great friend Steph out there. So we'll see if we can do you proud. But Ghost Story stars Craig Wasson as David Wanderley, Alice Krige as Alma Mobley, John Houseman as Sears James, Melvyn Douglas as John Jaffrey, Douglas Fairbanks Jr. as Edward Wanderley, and Fred Astaire as Ricky Hawthorne.
If I could let's start with this, okay? There's a great show right now on Paramount Plus called The Offer. It's about how The Godfather was made.
Yes.
Right? There's a fantastic scene in that movie where Mario Puzo, the writer of the novel The Godfather, says he can't do the script because he's a novelist.
Yes.
And he can't hack up his book like that. This, I don't know if it's a book. I'm not sure I want to know if it's a book.
It is.
But this shit was written by the guy that wrote the motherfucking book. This was written exactly like a novel, and that is why it's not good.
Yeah, I don't know. The novel was from Peter Straub, and I don't know if he had any input on it, because it has him listed as under the writer's credit, and it says Peter Straub novel, and then Lawrence Cohen screenplay. But I don't know.
I think Lawrence added fade in and exterior to like 3 or 4 paragraphs.
Well,
and photocopied the fucking book.
I was just going to say, I don't know if he literally just wrote down everything from the book and just added some like stage directions to it. But this movie,
this was a book. This was a book. This is why a lot of good books, like Stephen King's books, do not translate into movies, because you add all of this detail. You're lost at the plot at the beginning of the movie. I don't know about you. Until Alma was actually introduced, I had no idea what was going on.
Yeah, it's really weird just to kick off, because it opens with the shot of like a small New England town, and then there's 4 old men and they're all having nightmares. These 4 men form like this chowder society where they tell scary ghost stories, and we see this as Sears James tells a story in the dark in front of the fire with the other 3 men.
And if you would like to know the definition of WASP, or white Anglo-Saxon Protestant, I present to you Ghost Story.
Is it possible this story is true? Yes, it is.
It was just, I don't know. It was odd to start off. And listen, I'm not begrudging any movie for starting off in like a weird manner, because a lot of movies that I love start off this way and you're like, what in the hell am I watching? But it never got out of that, because from the scary ghost stories, it cuts to David and Alma. The bathtub is overflowing with water. David, who's the son of Edward, he's in a towel talking to a sleeping naked Alma, asking who she is repeatedly.
And this is where you should catch on to the fact that this is a novel and not a movie. Because who the fuck is this guy? Who's this girl? Why did we just hard cut away from this scene?
Yeah.
That we were just at. I'm already like, what is happening here? But you can see where if this was written in a book, it wouldn't be so kind of like, what is happening here? Because there's so much more subtext involved.
Yes.
And you understand what's shifting over, and you know characters come in and out real quick and disappear and da-da-da-da-da. I will say this. I feel bad, Steph, because you know I love you. However, I will say this. I love old-time horror movies, right? That have to rely on like good cuts, practical effects, the choppy camera work, all that kind of shit. I love it. That is how a horror movie should be. I really thought that's what we were about to get in this movie, because it opens so old school, has a very House on Haunted Hill kind of feel to it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then it never got it off the ground.
No.
It aborted takeoff 6 or 7 times. It just could not get off the ground.
After he's asking her repeatedly who she is, he turns her over to see her like Night of the Living Dead face, and then he backpedals and falls out the window to his death, and we get a nice dick shot here. Like,
is that what that was?
Cool, yeah.
Looked like a button in a fur coat.
Edward calls his other son, Don, also played by Craig Wasson. We got a whole JCVD thing here going on.
Yeah, we got back-to-back dual roles here.
So he calls his son Don to come home because of his brother's death. Edward and Don have dinner, and Don reveals that he thinks his brother was murdered, and he also reveals that he slept with David's fiancée, Alma.
Again, no context for any of this. Why do you think he was murdered? When did you sleep with it? Because we find out later that he didn't. It turns out David slept with his ex-girlfriend.
Yes.
Like, the way they're shifting this, you're not letting us in as a viewer as to what really is happening yet. And that's fine if you want to add some mystery. But you need a better, maybe, actor that can portray the guilt he's feeling and maybe has kind of more of an intuition as to why he was murdered, because he knew Alma, because that was da-da-da-da-da. You don't have to reveal the whole plot, but you can give us some kind of ingredient here to get the dish started, and you just don't do that. It's also monotone and sullen and just kind of like, man, I slept with her ex-girlfriend. Oh, you stop that now.
All 4 men continue to have nightmares, and we then see Edward leaving his house in a snowstorm in his PJs and like wandering across a bridge, screaming for his son. He then sees the same female ghost thing that his son saw, and he falls to his death from the bridge, and his death is ruled a suicide, but his son Don and the rest of the Chowderheads don't believe it. I don't believe you.
I can't believe it.
I still have yet to care about any character in this film.
I'm more concerned about the snowplow driver and the PTSD he's going to have by the time this movie's over than I do about any of the other characters, who, by the way, we come to find out literally all deserve it, except for the son.
Yes.
Like, you're trying to get us to be like, oh no, a ghost is hunting the living. Go living. No. Frankly, the only person I like so far is Fred Astaire's character, and that's just because he's adorable.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, the rest of them are kind of pricks.
Yeah.
I've met thousands of those highbrow, better than thou assholes, and frankly, I'm on Team Ghost, even before I knew the plot.
We then get this weird scene with Ricky going to an abandoned house where he's threatened by Gregory Bate and Fanny Bate and apparently some ghost woman. There's no explanation as to why he's going to this. I mean, you have this thought as you're watching it, like, oh, this abandoned house will get explained later. Mm-hmm. But there's no reason for him to be there. He's just randomly going to this house. Then the little kid, Fanny and like, they kind of pop up out of nowhere and threaten him. And dude, it's a goddamn mess. Gregory and Fanny then visit Don at his father's home and leave him this weird, like, creepy mouth necklace out of Fanny's mouth. And then they just leave. They're like, here's your mouth necklace. See, we're going to get the fuck out of here. Okay.
It's so bizarre.
Yes, it is.
I get it. You're an older guy. You ain't fucking with people like that.
Yeah.
Homeboy, though, in the next scene has a fucking fire poker and says, get the hell out of here. And Gregory Bate or whatever just keeps talking.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened in 1981, but if I have the fire poker, you've broken into my home, I say get the fuck out of here, and you keep talking, I'm braining you.
Yeah,
it's done.
100%.
I'm mopping up gray matter in 5 more minutes. Like, what the fuck is happening? He's like, whoa, what do you mean? Who are you? You have the weapon. Why are you afraid?
What do you want? How do you know my name? Who are you? Get out. You're crazy.
I didn't get this whole thing because in my head, I mean, we've all established how angry of a person I am. In this situation, you don't get, it's not a 3-strike rule. Okay. No. You get one. I'm like, hey, who are you? How did you get in here? You need to get the fuck out. That's one. The minute I grab the poker, it's not another, hey, get out. I just start swinging. I earhole you. That poker is going in your ear. Like, that's what's happening next. There isn't a, hey, buddy, did you hear what I said earlier? Get the fuck out of my house, man. Don here then goes to Ricky, shows him this picture that he found at his dad's house of the 4 men when they were young with some out of focus woman. And Ricky then tells the old men about it, and they're all scared. Don then asks the Chowderheads if he can join their group, and he offers a ghost story of his own because that's the price of entry is a ghost story. He gets into his past, and we meet this Alma character.
This is finally.
Yes.
Finally.
Yeah.
When we start getting an idea, maybe, of who the girl was on the bed with his brother.
Yes.
Nothing else. No reason why, no how, no who, nothing. We're just getting a background on his and his brother's story. That's it. And we're what, an hour deep into this thing?
Yeah, roughly. Apparently, a few years earlier, while working as a junior professor in Florida, Don meets Alma. She's a secretary who comes to work at the university, and they immediately begin to date. We see them dating and banging and going out. And things start to get a little strange. And
they're strange on their first date, dude. She's just staring at him while he eats his dessert. Her dessert's right in front of her. She's just like, and then he fucking, close your eyes and I'll spoon feed you. And they, on your first date, which by the way to toss it out there, but they're doing some seductive shit, like 9.5 week shit with their food. And then it's just like 2 scenes of her laughing after that hysterically.
Yes.
For no real reason. Because she drew a Hitler mustache on him with chocolate. And then her running through the rain giggling like a fucking does this bitch fart in the bathtub and start laughing too?
Don't do that, it's not good for you. Hi, people out there in the dating world. I'm just going to throw this one out there. If a woman wants you to finger bang her in a restaurant, or a guy wants you to jerk him off under the table at said restaurant, just end the relationship right there. Because this is like their second or third date, and she's just like, I'm not wearing any panties. How about you put your fingers inside me at this crowded restaurant? Just a warning, that is just the tip of the iceberg. Like, I know it sounds kind of awesome when you think about it. Like, yeah, she's crazy, he's crazy. Yeah. Like, regardless what happens after that, these bitches is crazy. If somebody asks you to perform any sort of digital masturbation on them, just walk away. Just pay the bill and get the fuck out.
Yeah, there are times and places in public where you can experiment with your sexuality. That's fun. Everybody's done it. Not in the middle of a restaurant. And for God's sakes, not at your job where you teach kids.
Yes.
Let's just not do that for starters and work backwards.
Yeah.
I am all for, hey, when it strikes, man, go for it. But you also don't have to you go to your car, for God's sakes.
Yeah, Exactly.
Go anywhere that is not where other people are eating. Because, look, I've said numerous times on this show, we do not kink shame. But also, I am not trying to eat my dinner and watch you get finger blasted.
I'm trying to fucking enjoy my rigatoni over here. This lady's getting finger blasted. I'm done.
Hell yes.
I am going straight to Yelp. And I'm like, don't go to this restaurant. People get jerked off and finger banged in this restaurant. It's disgusting. So...
what are you going to do for dessert, liquor asshole?
So afterwards, Don realizes that Alma is batshit crazy, and he breaks up with her. Later, he hears from his brother, David, that he met the same girl in New York, and he's going to marry her.
Which Alma, in a previous scene, they're talking about marriage here, right? Because they're going hot and heavy. They start talking about marriage, and she is insistent that they get married in Melbourne, where he's from and grew up.
Yes.
And that his father and all of his father's friends, the entire town is there to watch it.
Yes.
And that's really the first sign where you're like, okay, something's not, like, she's obsessed. When he starts talking about, like, his dad, and she wants to know everything about him and everything about the town he grew up in, you can tell that there's some ulterior motive she has.
Yeah.
However, we're still not even remotely close to sniffing why that is.
No,
we're
absolutely.
Still sniffing his fingers.
Yeah. Yes, we are. And we see that, like, every time he has questions about her, she immediately changes the subject, wants to know even more about him. And
because
it's not a PSA, but just like when you're trying to find out, and whether it's in a friendship or a relationship of any sort, and you're like, hey, where are you from? How'd you grow up? Well, your parents, yada, yada. And you're just trying to find out more about that person. And they continually deflect, and they're like, well, let's talk about you. That's a red flag for your ass right there.
Yeah, 100%. Or, I mean, still a red flag, or you're dating a ghost, because apparently a fucking ghost can't lie. Make up a story, Alma. It's not. You changed your name. It was Eva. You're now Alma.
Yes.
You never thought of a backstory to go along with this new identity? How did you get the job?
So Sears here doesn't believe Don, but the other two men believe him. And
Sears is a fat piece of shit. That motherfucker through this whole thing needed to be pushed down some stairs.
No shit. So after all of the talk of graves and ghouls and whatnot, they all go home.
Yep.
Dr. John Lafferty has a nightmare about Alma and dies the next day of a heart attack.
Which I didn't know he was a doctor this entire time until his B. Arthur look-alike wife was like, hey, you got a patient downstairs. I'm like, what did you do I had no idea.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't realize that either. And then it's not like we see him treating people but it is just weird. You see Alma like come into the house, and she's like, oh, I'll be right down. And I'm like, I'll be right down. Like, I don't even understand what's going on. There's a strange woman in your house. And then she's like, exactly. Oh, you had a patient come in. And I'm like, a patient for what?
Well, and the whole conversation is bullshit, because she goes, you had a patient come in. Well, I don't see patients anymore. Well, that's what I told her. First off, no, you didn't. Second, that's fucking weird that this girl came in. He hasn't seen patients in God knows how long. And you're just like, oh, wait right here. I'll go get him.
Yeah,
this whole scene was so weird. And she's a ghost. Just show up. Like, you don't have to announce yourself in the home and, like, you're a ghost. Appear. You can apparently even cross state lines.
Yes, you can.
You can cross state lines and assume new identities to fill out a W-2 to get a job as a secretary at a fucking university. What you can't do, though, is lie and just appear at random. You're a bad ghost, Alma.
Only Sears and Ricky are left, so they finally decide to tell Don their own history with a woman who looked exactly like Alma, but was named Eva Galley. Apparently back when the four friends were young in 1931, and Eva Galley came to town.
She's the talk of the town, see?
She was the talk of the town. And the four friends become immediately infatuated with her.
That blonde's a real mint julep.
So everybody's doing the Charleston and shit. So it was a young Edward, Don's father, who first tries to have sex with her as his friends sing outside and serenade them outside the window, but his dick doesn't work and things. So
yeah, I can't get it up. See,
Viagra didn't exist back then. See.
Give me 2 popsicle sticks from the boardwalk. I'll make this penis work. Man.
Did you just reference a dick splint?
Yes, I did.
After that scene, the boys are all drinking and wondering what it's like to be with a woman.
This rye whiskey is making me want to rape a girl and listen to some jazz music.
Well, and Edward lies here to his friends about his experience, and he doesn't really lie. He was just like, it was wonderful, see? I saw ladies' boobies. Like, he doesn't really get into the details, but like, these guys are in their late 20s, and I know it was a different time and things, but they were just like, oh my God, did you see her kneecaps? Like, what happened next? Oh golly, did your pee-pee go in the vajayjay? Corey's Life Lessons.
Hey, all you square cats out there, Uncle Corey. Here's a great suggestion for you when talking about sexual adventures with your friends. Don't drop a dime on your lady friend. She doesn't need that guff.
Well, isn't this a fine song and dance? What are you getting so hot about?
I don't want to hear that. I don't want to picture you fucking unless your sexual exploit. Oh, no, I got your back here. Unless your sexual exploit ends in comedy, as does every single one of Armando's. I don't want to hear about it.
Listen, when I start talking about sex, just FYI, it's a bit. I'm doing a bit. So after they, get into their drinking and talking about sexual relations and whatnot, they drive drunk to Ava's house and continue their drinking, and it starts to get a little rapey. Like there's an air of rape in the room. No.
There's a very strong air of rape in the room. And this is literally what I imagine a group of incels doing today.
Oh, 100%.
Just getting drunk and like, yeah, she was a goddess. I fucked her. Well, let's go to her house, bro. We're drunk. Let's go to our house. I want my dance.
No, I want my dance.
I don't know if the movie didn't do a good job here or if I just wasn't paying attention. I had zoned out. But outside of Edward, I didn't know who the other three dudes were. Like, I didn't know.
They did a really bad job of trying to separate them.
So I think the guy that was like, I want my dance. Can I put my pee-pee in your butt? Like, that guy, I think that was Sears.
Yeah, that's the fat lawyer.
Okay. I just wanted to double check and make sure because I kind of glazed over there for a second.
Look, they're not putting a lot of fucking context into this movie, but the one thing you were able to definitely tell was the rapey dickhead was the fat dickhead, just older.
Yes. She gets pissed at this, at just the fucking drunken debauchery that's going on.
I like her move here because the air around what's about to happen is just thick as fuck, right? Yeah. Like there's 100% rape humidity in the air at this point.
Yes.
And she just goes, instead of, I don't know, like just kind of falling back and letting it happen, she goes full board into it. And it's like, oh, is this what you want? And she almost scares the rest of the gang out of actually wanting to do that.
Yeah.
You know what it's all a big joke and everybody's laughing, especially the two little dorky guys.
Yeah.
But then when she walks up and kisses them first, like, oh, no, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
Like, no, they sobered up real quick. And the only one who's still into it is Sears. And then he just gets mad and calls her a slut.
And Eva here becomes super angry, and she begins to tell them about Edward's dick issues. She barely gets something out of her mouth before he jumps into action, knocks her down, accidentally killing her when she smashes her head on the fireplace.
Yes, which is really weird too, because like, I get it, you have dick issues, but also they're not fucking. Your other friends are all virgins.
Yeah.
So for them to come at you, well, no, you're still a fucking, like, you haven't even got close to fucking somebody yet. So what do you come, like, at least I've sniffed it, motherfucker. What are you talking about? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For him to get so fucking touchy about, like, oh, you're not
he was
very clearly, let alone fucking
it was
into the fucking mantle.
It was 1931. Even if she was like, dude, it was thick and veiny and it was awesome, he'd be like, you don't talk about my penis, see?
Well, aren't you a pocket full of firecrackers? Oh, yeah? You got something to say about it? I'll say plenty.
Here, we get the conundrum. We want to call the police, and we should call the police. But there's always the one friend that suggests that let's just dump the body. We're not going to check for a pulse. Nobody puts their ear up to her chest. Like, is her heart beating? Nothing. There's nothing going on. It's just like, oh shit, she's unconscious. Let's dump the body immediately.
No, we've got to hide the body. Hide it where it will never be found.
Sears actually planned this the entire time they were drunk. The second they decided we're going to go confront Eva all at her house, right, to drunk play, they were going to gang rape her in his head. They were going to kill her. They were going to dump the body. Because he came up with this plot so fast. It had to have already been in his head. Had to have been. And the reason they ditched the car is because she was leaving anyway. So by getting rid of the car, she just drove back to wherever the fuck.
I guess.
She took her one rug and drove back to wherever the fuck she came from.
So they throw the body into her car. They push the car into the nearby lake. And as the car sinks, they see her wake up from the back window, but the car goes down and she drowns.
Which I don't understand how she drowned, because she hit her head. She woke up. She was conscious enough to realize, like, I'm in fucking water, because she's banging on the glass, right?
Yep.
Other dude's window was open, wasn't it? I thought somebody had an open window where she could have swam out that motherfucker.
I mean, no idea.
I'm nitpicking because I get it. We're trying to get through this bullshit, but at the same time, that seemed like a kind of like, I'm in the car. Oh no, the water's here. I'm dead.
Well, the only I could explain it.
Tried, right?
I could explain it away by saying this: she woke up from being fucking conked the fuck out, and she was just like, I was in a family room, now I'm in a sinking car. Like, I think it takes you a second to kind of gather.
Why is this rug around my ankles? What's going on?
Back in present day, Ricky and Sears admit that the death has haunted them all these years, and both Ricky and Don believe that Alma and Eva are the same person, and that her ghost has returned to seek revenge after 50 years.
Which they're like, this has haunted us for all of these years. No, it hasn't. Because you show up to drink brandy like a bunch of highbrow dicks and tell ghost stories in the same town where there's a fucking dead body in a lake.
Yes.
Like, that you put there. I don't think it's haunted. I think now it's haunting you because it's literally haunting you.
Yes.
I don't think you gave a fuck.
Oh, absolutely not. Like,
not even Ricky and his cute little bow tie. You didn't give a fuck, bro.
Don suggests here then that they go to Eva's old house, which is the abandoned old house from earlier. Big reveal here. And they go there to confront the past and her ghost once and for all, yada yada. So when they get there, Don falls through the rotting stairs, breaks his leg. Sears is like, deuces, bro, I'll go get some help.
I'll be back with help as soon as I can.
Fuck that guy. The guy that is immediately like, I'll be the guy that drive and go get help. No. You're staying. I'll go get help. Like, fuck you, asshole. You ain't calling nobody.
we didn't, at this point now, we all know why Alma's doing what she's doing. Alma, Eva, whatever. Yeah. She's doing what she's doing. Sears was still the only person I cared about because I wanted him to die.
Yes.
I think, as far as I'm concerned, the rest of these old guys got what they deserved.
Yeah.
Because they're old, and that's disgusting. No, because they're because they're murderers and all complicit in a murder and accomplices to murder. So
and they're old.
You were right.
They deserved everything they got, but Sears, I desperately wanted to see die.
And to be honest, it was I liked this whole scene. So he bounces, he hops in his car, he's driving down the road, and he sees Eva in the road. He loses control of the car, crashes into a snowbank, and then one of Eva's evil minions comes out from the back seat and kills him.
Fanny kills him, and then once again, this poor snowplow driver finds another dead body.
Yeah, this dude's having a fucking tough go of it.
It's not going to be a good Christmas.
It's not. He's not getting hazard pay.
No. You want to talk about someone who's haunted? The guy that is plowing the roads for a living and can't afford a Rolls Royce is about to be destroyed mentally by the events of Melbourne for months.
Ghost Story 2 is just about the snowplow driver. Ricky then nearly dies after getting into a car passing by, driven by her other minion, Gregory. And Ricky crashes the car, manages to get to the authorities, tells them to pull Eva's car up from the lake. And while that's happening, Don is confronted by Eva's rotting ghost corpse in a wedding dress, and she's going after him. And then Ricky and the cops drag the car out of the water and open the rusted door. Eva's rotting corpse falls out, disintegrating in front of them, and Don and Ricky are spared, and the movie ends.
So I really like the practical effect they did here of Eva's body in the car.
Yeah.
But the skin falling off the skeleton was the funniest shit I have ever seen in my life. Skin does not peel like an orange, people. That's just not how it works.
Come on, you can't listen, if you're going to nitpick about things in this movie, that's one thing you can't nitpick about because it's a horror movie. I'm not going to nitpick about that. There's so many other things I can pick on.
Oh, definitely. Look, this is what we do on this show, and I'm just saying, like, what, in 2-3 years, The Thing comes out?
Yes. Well, and that's okay. So
that's all I'm saying.
In the grand scheme of things, if this movie were to have come out, because I told you it had a very 1950s feel to it.
Yes.
And it was absolutely, the present day was absolutely based in 1981. 1931, 50 years later, yada, yada, whatever. So this is absolutely based in 1981, but it had this 50s like kind of feel to it. Almost so. Like Alfred Hitchcocky, except not very good.
Yes.
But think about the horror movies that had come out up to that point in 1981. Like, there were some bangers.
Oh, yeah.
Good stories, good practical effects, all of that stuff. And this just fell short on every single level. And it might be, like you said earlier, it might be because they just said, yeah, here's the novel, Mr. Director, just there, action. I don't know if that was the reason, but it was just, it's kind of like listening to a song and you're like, is this song still going? It's just droning on and on and on.
Yeah, they set far too much time with rando nonsense that doesn't factor into the movie at all.
Yeah.
And they didn't illustrate the foreshadowing well enough to keep us involved. And that's the problem.
Yeah.
You know, you if they would have had the one scene at the beginning of the movie changes almost everything. And what you do is you have the phone call between David and his brother. where he says, I met this girl downtown. She knows you. You have the wrong idea about. Stay away from her. She's dangerous. There's something very wrong with her. You have the wrong idea about her, bro. We're getting married. Click. Right?
Yep.
Start the movie. Because then when we do see David, like 2 or 3 scenes later in the hotel room, we have some kind of context. We still don't know why there's a ghost there. We don't know what it's doing, but we have some sort of context as to why this is happening. The brother has warned his brother, David, stay out of this. You don't want to be around her. Something's wrong with her.
Yeah.
Then we see a girl in his bed. We can automatically infer that is the problem. And that's why mainly script writers aren't novelists and vice versa.
That's fair.
Because a script writer would have taken this, a good script writer would have taken this and taken that scene, added some fucking foreshadowing at the beginning for us, and then let the movie play out.
Yes.
This movie would have been better served with no editing whatsoever. Like, just let the whole fucking story play out, right?
Yeah.
Don't cut anything, and make it a miniseries on TV for 2 to 3 weeks.
It's not a bad idea. They used to do that shit all the time back then.
Yeah, right? Just do that, and it would have been so much better.
Yep.
Because you would have you would have had time to invest us in the story and add some sort of context instead of just, here's a novel in 2 hours, good luck. Like
exactly.
an audiobook is typically like 8 to 12 hours. And you're trying to fit that basically into a 2-hour movie. It just doesn't work.
I don't think so. Neither do I.
That's all I got. Do you have anything else?
Yeah, actually, a quick reminder to everybody out there. If you want to see the updated list, it's obviously below here. But also, you can follow me or Armando on Twitter. We have them both posted up. So if you want to see the list of upcoming movies, that's where you go. And if you want to make a request, you can do so in the comments. But if you want to see it within the next year, I strongly suggest going to PayPal. There's no dollar limit. Just put your money in, whatever you want to suggest, and we will get to that a lot faster.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So for Corey, I'm Armando. This is Kiss the Reviews, and this was 1981's Ghost Story.